A while back I did a video on the Noel Gallagher ES signature guitar that Gibson released in 2022-ish. And I went over my want of an ES style guitar and how to satisfy that need. Now, with all of the Epiphone news in this past year, it coincides a lot with their 150th anniversary. I figured I'd finally do a video on this. It's my 2022 Epiphone Inspired by Gibson ES-335. I got this from Sweetwater in late 2022 before, and just before the gigging season of spring 2023, I got this set up to be what I would want in that dream ES guitar. I'll throw up a few pictures. As this came from Sweetwater, they do like a mini photo session for each guitar, so you get to see specific details on the actual instrument, not just the manufacturer's stock photos. You get to see grain patterns, and it also goes through Sweetwater's I think they call it 55-point inspection checklist, and they seem to go through things very well, and they send along some photos. I'll throw a few of them up there so you can check those out. I want to tell you right now, this video is in no way sponsored by Epiphone or Sweetwater. I paid my own money for this instrument, and I've been using this for about 90% of my electric gigs in the last year or so. So this is a really accurate review of the practical use of this instrument for well over a year in real world situations of gigging and practicing. In recent years, Epiphone went to the Inspired by series of ES guitars, basically upgrading things like the pickguard and tailpieces and other items to get things closer to the Gibson specifications. Now the headstock on this is closer to the Gibson style as well compared to previous versions. However, a few weeks ago, Epiphone released a new version, a higher end price point of their Inspired by series guitars, and it really happens to have the Gibson style headstock on there, although it does have the Epiphone logo, and it gets a lot closer to that ES-335 aesthetic. So if there's been a player that you got to have that Gibson headstock, well, there's a guitar there for you, but it's a little bit pricier. Actually, it's a lot pricier than what I paid for this. But anyways, back when this guitar arrived, I have to tell you right off the bat, the fit and finish were really quite nice. The fretwork was wonderful. There were no blemishes or anything to be found in the finish or in the materials. The neck shape is quite comfortable overall. It's kind of like a girthy C shape. That's the best way to describe it. It's got some mass to it, but it's not really clubby, but it's not super thin profile either. But it is quite comfortable for doing pretty much everything I do with that. And like I said, it had a thorough inspection and setup before it came to me, and so right out of the box, no problems whatsoever. Here's the typical YouTuber plug I got to throw in here though. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button, the bell icon, blah, 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 let you know there's a new video. Yes, about 97% of the viewers on this page aren't regular subscribers. Again, some of this is probably driven by the YouTube algorithm and what you watch with that algorithm driving everything. But if you subscribe, you'll be sure not to miss out on any future videos. And if you like this video, give it the thumbs up button. If you want to share it, there's a button for that as well. Anyways, back to this guitar. So you've probably seen the photos I threw up that when Sweetwater had this guitar, and they showed me the photos. Well, it's had some mods done to it since then. And I had Adam at AF Precision Setups install a Bigsby B7 along with a Vibromate adapter plate and Kluson locking tuners. And for a couple things I wanted to let you know if you do decide to mod your guitar, the Kluson locking tuners, They weren't direct drop-ins. The old tuner holes had to be plugged, and the peg holes did need to be reamed out a little bit for these ones. I really wasn't surprised that it wasn't a direct drop-in, but it's always great to have somebody like Adam at AF Precision Setups who can sort this out without having to, worry if you're going to damage your instrument or, maybe mess something up, to a point of no return. So that's great to have that. But these were not one of those things, just pull the old ones up, pop the new ones in. It was a little bit more than that. The Vibromate, however, was a very easy install, and so was the Bigsby. What happens is with the Vibromate, you might be like, what is it? Well, basically it's an adapter plate that you attach to the guitar, and it is meant to be removable, and it doesn't have any permanent mounting points on there whatsoever. So then what you do with that mounting plate is you mount the Bigsby on top of that, so you don't have to drill holes for the Bigsby or any other type of permanent changes to the body of the guitar. The only thing that might draw attention for an eagle-eyed guitar nerd is this little strip of material here. I believe the plate is aluminum, and it just kind of sticks out here, and it provides gives like the full platform going on. That's the only thing that kind of is a giveaway that this is a little, maybe not a regular Bigsby, but for the typical audience member, they're just going to know you've got an old school whammy bar on your cool guitar. Now, to make string changes even easier, I went with Vibromate's spoiler attachment. And what this does is it eliminates the needs to do the string bending under that moving cam of the Bigsby. I found out halfway through the summer schedule of gigs I had in 2023 that if you don't get that bend just right, strings can tend to slip a lot in that area, and it can kind of mess with your tuning. And this solves that issue with ease. It's also not a permanent thing on the Bigsby, so if you have a Bigsby guitar and you're like, hey, I'd like to try it out, it's not a permanent modification either, so that's really great. With the Vibromate spoiler and the locking tuners, the tuning overall is pretty solid. The only thing that could possibly make it a little bit more stable would be going with a roller bridge. That'd be a really nice addition. Maybe in the future I might consider that. The only issues I've really had tuning wise were there were a couple of gigs that I did where the temperature was really cold. It was about 50 degrees for one of them, and somewhere I think around 55 degrees for the second one, and those were outdoor shows. And it was early in the season, and nothing stayed in tune whatsoever. So it was quite cold, and I doubt any of my other electric guitars would have held up to those temperatures either. So getting into the electronics, the pickups, they sound really nice overall. I couldn't think of something that these are lacking other than the cachet of a name brand or some bragging rights for a boutique version on there. At this point, they sound great, and I don't feel the need to have to dig into the electronics to replace them, especially considering the mess that has to happen to upgrade or fix any of the electronics. So I'm somewhat relieved. If I do ever consider upgrading the electronics, or if something goes bad, more than likely I will look into replacing the entire wiring harness with a pre-wired kit, and possibly some upgraded pickups at the time, because everything has to get fed in through those F holes, and it's not very easy to do because this doesn't have any back plates. So you have to go in through the front, and it can be a little fiddly. And I know a lot of repair guys and techs, they just curse when a volume knob or a switch goes bad on a semi-hollow guitar like this. But I have to say, for now, I'm very content with all the sounds I get out of this, especially right out of the box. And it's really great. I love the way it sounds with these other upgrades of hardware for the tuning, as well as the setup that Adam did on this guitar. I absolutely love playing this instrument in every way. As far as what the sounds this can kind of work for, well, I do this with my cover band, and we cover stuff from Dua Lipa to the Black Crowes, And the entire time I've been using this, I have not felt the want or wish that I was using a different guitar for a particular part of a song or anything like that. It's always been great. No matter what we shift to from one song to the next, this handles everything quite well. And it makes sense because ES style guitars have always been staples in the studio since they came out in the late 50s, and they cover a lot of versatile areas. I mean, everything from blues, rock, jazz, you know, a variety of pop music, and a variety of players have used these types of instruments. So there's a lot of room in there for yourself to find what you're looking for. You know, in the 70s studio scene, you know, ES-335 was kind of the standard. So, you know, and it's been documented that that is the case. And considering all the different types of music that came out during that time, this is definitely going to give you a lot of really great options that you can get to them very easily. It's not a very complicated setup. It's just a standard 2 volumes, 2 tones, and a 3-way toggle switch. You know, standard Gibson type of thing that you'd find in a Les Paul. I'll be honest, before I purchased this guitar, I did watch a ton of YouTubers doing side-by-side comparisons of the Epiphones to the Gibsons, and so many of them have said it's a very close race. If you are in a budget, the Epiphone is a great value, and the sounds and feel are arguably usually not that far away from the Gibson ES versions, depending on the particular version of the Epiphone you're trying out, and depending upon the version of the Gibson one that you are comparing it to. And with things like modifications, whether it's pickups, electronics, or even doing stuff like I did, where you added some hardware changes, that space can be narrowed. The Gibson original is an excellent guitar. There's nothing beats the real thing. And you gotta tell you, if there's money is not an issue and you're ready to make that plunge, just go get it. You know, go big or go home. You're not going to be overpaying for the name or anything like that, especially if you find the right one for you. I gotta tell you, with the Epiphone though, you're definitely not slumming it though. It's the same DNA, but it's not diluted. It's well worth checking one out if you've had that ES itch that needs scratching like I did. I wasn't really quite ready to plunk down the Gibson money for a type of guitar that I wasn't very familiar with. I don't play a lot of semi-hollow guitars. I have picked up a few at jam sessions. I've tried out a ton of music stores, but I was afraid of spending that much money on an instrument I was not that familiar with, and I was afraid I'd get it and then I'd maybe have to try to sell it or recoup whatever I spent, putting on reverb, or even worse, trying to spend money and modify it and make it do what I needed to do if there was anything that was kind of like I wasn't very comfortable with. So at this price point, for I believe I paid just around $6.99 for this from Sweetwater, I'm very happy I dipped my toes in this pool first. And I'd be honest with you, I don't think I'm having a fear of missing out and just want to go and get a Gibson 335 to just, solidify that. These are wonderful instruments. They're definitely doing the trick for me and what I do, and I'm very comfortable with the money I spend. If I find that wonderful ES 335 guitars, like find one at a music store and find the perfect version of it, and I've got the money for it, I'll more than likely pull the trigger though, if that day ever does come. So this is definitely one of those things where you have to pay respect for the real thing, but these are they're owned by Gibson, and they have definitely stepped up their game on it. And like I said, I've used this guitar for well over a year. This is not one of those, oh, this is new and I love it reviews that you see on YouTube, and then if you keep following that YouTuber's channel, you'll never see that guitar ever again after a certain point, especially usually after the honeymoon's faded and they go back to their favorite guitar that they've always had. So I do grab other guitars for videos. I do bring other guitars to gigs, but that's just because I like to mix it up. And this has really delivered the goods since I got it. And when I go to grab this guitar for videos or for live shows and practices, I have no problems at all using it for whatever musical situation that I'm working in. And I'd love to hear from you guys as well on your opinions on the Gibson ES style guitars. If you have any questions about this guitar and the mods I've done to it, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.